Could this be a push? Could this be a final push for a sign of things to come? Lynne Roberts, head coach, LA Sparks, planting seeds in the ground for Caitlin Clark to blossom and eventually put on a LA Sparks uniform. The talks.
Los Angeles Sparks, a team that for the last few years most people had written off as irrelevant, are making a very serious, very aggressive push to pull Caitlin Clark away from the Indiana Fever. And the person driving that push is Lynne Roberts, the brand new Sparks head coach who just spent 9 years building a powerhouse at Utah before deciding her next challenge was the professional game.
Traded to LA. A nightmare situation for Indiana. Is this actually happening? Looking at the YouTube WNBA influencers, they are convinced that Caitlin Clark will be traded to the LA Sparks. The thought process here is that Adam Silva doesn't like what's going on in Indiana. Caitlin Clark is too big of a ticket for Indiana, a small market. So they're going to move Clark out of there, move her to LA, and get a bigger, better TV contract next year, or whatever's going to happen.
This is not a rumor. This is not a fan theory cooked up on a Reddit thread at midnight. This is a real story with real names attached. And the reason it is getting louder by the day is because if you have been paying attention to what the WNBA has been putting Caitlin Clark through this season, the idea of her packing her bags for Los Angeles is starting to sound less like a wild fantasy and more like the only logical conclusion.
On the street is Caitlin Clark is going to be traded soon. And if you follow the rabbit hole, it all sounds real. It all sounds on purpose. And it all makes sense. Caitlin Clark to LA Sparks.
So let's go through all of it. Let's talk about what the Sparks are doing. Let's talk about what Stephanie White's coaching decisions look like from the outside. Let's talk about what this league has been allowing to happen to its most important player, game after game. And let's talk about why, for the first time,
goes to LA. What do you guys think? I mean, she'd be back with what? Cameron Brink? Kelsey Plum is over there. Kate Martin is there right now. They have some good players. I just don't know if Caitlin Clark is an LA girl. I mean, she's definitely Midwest, person. Will she fit in LA? I mean, with Cam and that team, I don't know. Maybe the spotlight.
Roberts is not some first-year coach who stumbled into a big market job. She spent 9 seasons at Utah, built the program into a consistent NCAA tournament presence, and became one of the most respected builders in women's basketball. The Sparks hired her to do something people had stopped expecting from that franchise: compete. And she is not here to be patient about it. Since arriving in Los Angeles, Roberts has been aggressive on every front. She signed Kate Martin, a player who built genuine chemistry with Clark at Iowa, converting Martin's development contract into a full-standard WNBA deal in early July. She brought in Kiana Williams. She has been publicly transparent about her ambitions, and she has made it obvious the Sparks are building towards something real. Roberts wants a star, not just a good player, a star, the kind of star who changes the economic math of your franchise overnight. And when you are the head coach of the Los Angeles Sparks and you are...
And if you haven't heard, Kate Money Martin, man, just got signed to a standard contract with the LA Sparks, man. And this was much deserved and needed because the WNBA needs Kate Martin on a team. And they had to make room to do this, so thank you to Nia Latson. But we talking about Kate Martin. We already know from Iowa with the face of the league, the baby goat, Caitlin Clark. Also, one of the people that have the top selling basketball jerseys in the WNBA and has had it since she came in. But she also has the skill to be on the team. So this is good, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people is happy about this.
Here's what makes this push more than just wishful thinking. The Sparks did not sign Kate Martin by accident. Martin was Clark's teammate at Iowa. She was there for every piece of that historic run. She is someone Clark is comfortable with, someone who understands how she plays before a single practice even happens. You do not go out and sign Kate Martin in the middle of the WNBA season and then deny you have one eye on Clark's situation. That is a deliberate organizational signal. You are building a roster Clark could step into and immediately feel at home. You are removing friction. You are putting pieces on the board before the real negotiation even begins. Roberts has not stood up in a press conference and announced, "We are coming for Caitlin Clark." That is not how this works.
Pissed. After tonight's game, I'm pissed, and I'm clearly not alone in my sentiments, but the league has a serious officiating issue, and the fact that the ways that they treat their generational talent is truly disgusting. The calls tonight were insane, or the no calls tonight were insane.
You can understand why the Sparks want her so badly. You have to understand what Caitlin Clark is doing right now in 2026. She is averaging a career-high 21.2 points per game across 17 appearances this season. She has another All-Star selection, her third in 3 years. The Fever came into this stretch with an 11-8 record. At 24 years old, in just her third professional season, she is performing at a level that puts her in a conversation very few guards in the entire history of women's basketball have ever entered. She is the most watched player in the history. 5.7 million viewers on CBS. On May 31st. Stephanie White pulled Clark in the first quarter, and the Fever went on to lose 100-84, a 16-point blowout. Then, during a second quarter timeout, the cameras caught Clark and White in what could only be described as a heated exchange. Clark was visibly upset. White was making her point, and the moment went viral immediately because the entire country had a front row seat to a head coach and her franchise player not being on the same page. When reporters asked White about the early substitution, her explanation did not fully land. She cited Boston's minutes restriction and said Clark's removal was part of the plan. But pulling your best player, your most important offensive weapon, in the first quarter of a game that then turned into a 16-point blowout loss is the kind of decision that demands a cleaner answer than that. Clark and White both came out afterward and said there was no issue. They called it competitive. They called it coaching, but here's the thing. When you and your coach are having a visible argument on national television during a timeout, telling people there is no issue does
a generational talent and a WNBA superstar who had 2 cheap shots right there that weren't called. And I just say again, absolutely unacceptable.
Steph, do you think that the league needs to look into how Caitlin Clark is defended or how she's officiated going forward?
I mean, we spent all offseason looking at officiating. All offseason. And I still say the one thing that we keep asking for is consistency. She is not called the same way everybody else is called.
A one-game story. Clark had been listed as probable for 13 separate games this season because of a recurring back concern before the latest incident. 13 games. A 24-year-old who should be in the most physically capable years of her career, and the team has been navigating injury clouds for over half the season. Then came June 24th, the Fever Mercury game. Alyssa Thomas put her closed fist directly into Clark's throat during a scramble for a loose ball. Thomas stood up, looked down at her, and stepped over her. The referees saw none of it. The game kept moving. White called the missed calls egregious after the game. She said Clark absorbed 2 uncalled cheap shots in a single professional basketball game, and the referees still found a reason to review Clark for possibly hitting a defender rather than addressing what was done to her.
That's just like you said about basketball. Like, it was a flagrant 2, it was a flagrant 2. Like, that should have never been done. Like, you don't put your hand in someone's throw and like damn near kick them on the floor. Like, it's a basketball game. Like, what are we doing? Like, and so obviously that was the right call. And I've been like, it's so.
I've been on the other side of those, Aaliyah. Like, yeah. I've been on the side of some players' rough play. So if there's anybody that could probably speak about this and being roughed up and being like disrespected and whatever, it's probably me. But in terms of taking it farther than that, it's just like, what are we doing?
Here is where this story gets serious in a way that goes beyond basketball drama. Sirat Sohi at The Ringer plainly said that the league is stacked against Clark, that players resent her, referees won't protect her, and league leadership has been reluctant to acknowledge obvious mistreatment. That is not a fan on Twitter. That is a credentialed journalist who covers the WNBA for one of the most respected sports publications in the country. A group of 11 Republican lawmakers, led by U.S. Representative August Pfluger of Texas, sent a letter to WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert on July 7th, demanding accountability for what they called multiple attacks against Clark. They described her as the face of your league. They pointed to hip checking, eye poking, and the throat incident as examples of unnecessary physical hostility and violence. They floated DOJ involvement if the conduct rises to the level of...
I thought you're a young, wonderful basketball player.
The best.
Caitlin, I thought that she was treated rather rough, if you want to know the truth. That was a much different kind of an event. That was a pretty bad event.
Thanks.
But in this case, he didn't do anything
And
wrong.
do you know how bad the WNBA has to be doing when our president has to stop his busy schedule to talk about the WNBA? What? Good thing it was Caitlin, because if it wasn't for Caitlin, he would have had no reason to speak about the WNBA. That just has to stop his busy schedule to talk about the WNBA. What? Good thing it was Caitlin, because if it wasn't for Caitlin, he would have had no reason to speak about the WNBA. That's just facts.
And then, right in the middle of all of this, someone went ahead and said the quiet part out loud. A piece published by Yahoo Sports in late June carried the argument that the WNBA would be better off without Caitlin Clark. The reasoning went like this. Clark has already done her job. She helped get players chartered planes. She drove the new CBA. She pushed...
Being sabotaged by this trash-ass head coach, this trash-ass organization. Trade her already. Just trade her. This is garbage, bro. I'm sick of watching this stuff. She was sabotaged today. The most she played was 3 minutes and 10 seconds at one time. That is sabotage. It's malpractice. There was no point in her even playing today if this is the plan. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it, man.
The contract reality, because this matters. The Indiana Fever exercised their team option on Clark's deal for the 2027 season before this campaign even began, locking her in at a salary of $597,596 for that year. After 2027, she becomes a restricted free agent. Restricted free agency means Indiana can match any offer another team makes, but it does not mean another team cannot make that offer. They know 2028 is when the real move becomes possible. Ambitions, the messaging around championship contention, is preparation for that conversation. Clark has been careful with her public words. She has not complained about the Fever. She has not called out management. She is a professional. But she is also a 24-year-old watching a league that has spent 3 years either failing to protect her or looking the other way while she gets targeted. And the Sparks are building a picture of what an alternative looks like.
So, first of all, I know what you guys are going to ask, and I did think it was a flagrant foul. And our reffing just needs to be better. And, it's tough. Obviously, the refs are in a really difficult spot. It's one of the hardest jobs in the world, in my opinion, is to make calls. All you do is get yelled at the whole time by everybody. You're never winning. So I think for us, as the league's just got to do better protecting our players in that regard. I don't really think that it was up for debate. Obviously, it wasn't called in real time. You go back and watch the clip. I think it's pretty straightforward.
In front of the cameras after returning to practice and said plainly that the league needs to do better protecting its players. She said officiating needs to improve. And in the same breath, she condemned the harassment being directed at other WNBA players in the fallout. That is Caitlin Clark. She is sitting out games with an injury, and her public statement is as measured and responsible as you could possibly ask for. And the league is still struggling to hold up its end of the deal. She keeps showing up. She keeps averaging 21 points a game. She keeps selling out buildings and driving television ratings to highs the WNBA had never seen before she arrived. She came to win. And the fastest path to winning in the WNBA in 2026 is Caitlin Clark. Roberts knows it. The Sparks know it. And if the Indiana Fever and the WNBA do not figure out they are actively handing their competitor a reason to come knocking, they will learn that lesson the hard way. The franchise that treated her like an afterthought should not be surprised when someone else starts treating her like a priority.